everybody, don't get too excited. My husband just happens to be gone this weekend, and we were able to, move his bed out of the way. So I have a studio again just for the weekend. But of course, it's the one weekend where I'm feeling really lousy, bad endometriosis flare. All of my joints really, really hurt. I haven't taken a class in a long time, so I don't even know how this is going to go. But I wanted to continue the little lessons I've been doing. We've kind of been building up from the beginning of the bar, like everything you need to know about your pliés at the bar, everything you need to know about your tendus at the bar. We're up to dégagés now, also called Battement Jeté. Dégagé means to disengage, and jeté means to throw. And we're doing both. You can see how this movement got its name. A dégagé is essentially a tendu that disengaged from the floor. But we are also doing a jeté, which means to throw. So we're throwing the leg. Now we throw the leg in a lot of places in ballet. I'm sure you've heard grand jeté, right? Or a jeté en avant. Those are also acts of throwing the legs, but these little jetés at the bar actually do prepare us for big jetés later, and we're going to explain why. So the purpose of dégagés or jetés is to get us familiar with pushing against the floor for that sudden release of energy so we can throw the leg. But we also, same as tendus, we also consistently practice them in the same 3 directions so that we can replicate our precision every time. Remember how I talked about in our tendu combinations that everything is on the cross, en croix? You should go back and look at the tendu exercises if you don't know what I'm talking about. So our legs are only allowed to really go in 3 directions in ballet, front, side, or back, or, transferring in between those positions, but we really do everything front, side, or back. So when we do these dégagés, we're practicing them smaller, but with precision, so that when we work up to bigger jetés, we can still have that perfectly replicated, precise position every time. Now, since jetés or dégagés are essentially an extension of a tendu that just left the floor, this is also an extension of our footwork. So this is where we really start practicing the continuation of a long lengthened leg, really engaged muscles around your knees especially, really engaged turnout muscles, and continuing to point the foot the whole way. When we're beginners and we're just working with tendus, it's pretty easy to kind of feel where our leg is because we have that tactile haptic feedback from the floor touching our toes. But once our toes leave the floor, it's up to us to maintain that, even though we lose that touch feedback from the floor. So working backwards a little bit, remember how I said tendu is like one of the most important things in ballet, like everything in ballet builds on tendu. So dégagés or jetés are the next step after tendu. We are now practicing taking that tendu energy and putting it in the air. So we have to maintain that tendu energy in the air, and dégagé is one of the first exercises that we do to start practicing that feeling. And after that, we take it all sorts of places. We do it in the air, we do grand battements, we do fondus, we prepare for big développés. So it starts here, keeping that same lengthened feeling in the air. Dégagés or jetés, we're throwing the leg. So this is where we start to add dynamic. This is where we start to add an energy, right? Because remember, this particular one is preparing us for jumps later. You can't jump with a lazy floppy leg. So here is where we really start adding energy to the bar. So you can do dégagés from 1st position or from 5th position, or I guess technically you could do it from 3rd position if you're still working up to a 5th position. Or if you have a teacher that has the luxury of giving you many combinations to really thoroughly warm you up. This is especially common in a Vaganova style class. The teacher could give you a tendu facing the barre, then pliés, then tendus from first, then tendus from fifth, then sometimes dégagés from first and dégagés from fifth. And then sometimes even another dégagé or jeté combination after that, either just faster or more advanced or whatever. So I think it is useful and helpful to practice dégagés from first position. And if you've been taking ballet classes for at least a couple of years, you probably have seen or done something similar to this combination. A regular dégagé combination from first position, where you alternate legs. So the standard combination is usually 8 jetés with the right, 8 with the left, then 4, then 4, then 2, then 2, then 1, 1, 1, 1. So when we're standing in ballet and trying to figure out how much weight we put on our feet, I did make another video about this, the weight placement in the foot. We divide it up into threes. We have 2 points here in the ball of the foot and a point here in the heel of the foot. So it's like a tripod, right? We have 3 main points on our feet, and you can imagine that 2/3 is in the ball of your foot and 1/3 is in the heel of your foot. So when we're pushing out for a dégagé, it still feels like you're pressing more into the ball of the foot until the last moment. So we're still going through all of the same articulation that we had in tendu. So in tendu, we don't just release the ball of the foot and plop it out there, right? Also, we don't prematurely lift the heel. So it's as if we want to keep contact with the floor as long as possible, but it's the act of the leg extending that draws up the heel and then eventually the ball of the foot as we point the toes. And it is this resistance of waiting until the last minute that really helps you send out your leg quickly for bigger, sharper movements, such as jumps. And another really lovely thing about this combination, doing these fast dégagés from first position, is when you are transferring, you have to be very conscious of not rocking your upper body too much. Like, yes, a tiny shift has to happen because you're shifting weight from foot to foot, but you can't make it obvious. You can't be wobbling side to side. So this is a really fantastic combination for making sure that you're really lifting up from here up. It's as if your legs don't affect your upper body. Somebody should be able to take a video of you waist up and not know that you're doing things with your legs underneath. Also, the return of your dégagé, how you accept the floor on the way back, is just as important, if not more important, because this is how you safely land a jump. You have to be very conscious of that toe, ball, heel, right? Of really articulating through those muscles, and it almost has the same exact resistance as when you pushed up. Right? All it is reversing, right? Your dégagé, your disengagement from the floor, if all you do is play it backwards, it's exactly the same. The foot leaves in the same pattern that it accepts the floor, just in reverse. So in a way, you get that feedback with the tips of your toes so you can properly gauge and calculate how to land. So it's during this exercise that we really start training our feet to point and always be looking for the floor, building that habit of making your toes a homing device for the floor. This is how you build that good habit, that good footwork, the fact that the feet are always pointed at their max capacity, so that, first of all, it looks beautiful when it's in the air, but also so that when you land, like, your toes have already done the work of finding the floor. So when you're on stage and you don't have a mirror to see where your foot is, oh, don't worry, foot found the floor already. Okay, good. Like, this is one of the reasons we point our toes and always want the toes to be the first thing that meet the floor, because if you land on a heel, if you land rolled out on the side of your ankle, if you land turned in, if you land in some other position, that really makes you vulnerable to all sorts of injuries. And it's not passive. Your toes are stiff, so you're not going to just land on a crunched toe accidentally. My teachers say your toes should make noise when they hit the floor because that's how hard they're pointing. So when I'm coming in from a dégagé, that's not my heel, that's my toe. That's the tip of my toe making the noise, because that's how hard it's pointing. And that's how it should feel in your jumps, because you need that safety net of feeling the floor through a strong foot so you can land safely. Also, if you're taking an intermediate or advanced class, this is probably around the time that they will start introducing an enveloppé or a tablier. In my previous Tendu combination, I worked in a pas de cheval. So an enveloppé is kind of like the opposite of that, but it also helps you find that precise coup de pied position very quickly, which is necessary when you're doing petit allegro jetés later. So I'm going to give two combinations from fifth position. One is a little bit slower, the second one is a little bit faster. So we had two slow. 1, 2. Now you see how the accent is out. For most dégagé or jeté combinations, the accent is out. And fifth, and fifth. I gave 2 piqués, which is a dégagé. Piqué means to prick, so you just prick with your toes, and close. Still very useful, keeping that leg nice and sharp. Accent up, and close. Then I gave 1 enveloppé. Accent out, turn out the knee immediately as you bring it to coup de pied and place it exactly fifth. And then I gave 1 tablier, transferring through the 4th position. So accent out, turn out as you plie through 4th, accepting the floor. Don't let that back knee turn in. Nice and turned out. Weight equally between the legs. And then you push accent out and close. Then we did the same thing to the side. Dégagé, toes. Dégagé, toes. 2 piqués. Piqué, piqué, and fifth. An enveloppé. Out, keep it turned out, coup de pied, place it fifth. And instead of a tablier through 4th, we cannot travel front to back. So we're just going to go plie in 2nd position, up with that same energy, out and close. No. To the back, same rules as Tendu. Don't let that heel slip back. You want it to be as if your toes are starting the movement, right? So we have Dégagé, dégagé, and piqué, piqué, fifth. Enveloppé, and tablier. To the side, piqué up, up, fifth. Enveloppé, place it fifth, and transfer second, finish. Okay, now the slightly more advanced version, same music but more stuff, so a little bit faster, but still has all the same basic food groups. So, same basic food groups as the last combination, but building onto it, making it a little faster, a little more advanced. 1, 2, 3. Instead of 2 PKs, we did a double PK, so it's still 2, but you gotta try to bang out 2 of them in just one count. Up, up, and fifth. We did a dégagé into an enveloppé, but then we went out again. So almost preparing us for ballets, close, and then we did one more, and then instead of a tablier, we had to keep that whole foot on the floor and brush through a nice turned out first position, close, and repeat the whole thing to the back. 1, 2, 3. Double, and this comes from the butt muscle, or if you're doing it to the front, it comes from turnout muscles. It's not the foot wobbling, right? It's the whole leg. Bum, bum. Close. Coup de pied out, fifth, and brush through nice turned out first position. To the side, 1, 2, 3. And up, and close, and coup de pied out, and here, instead of the brushing through first position, I did first, back. Then we had a little extra music to finish it out, so I did 2 more sets of first, fifth, and then I did 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And little thing to remember, accent out, not up. It's out. The same energy as your tendu, but it grows longer. It's going out away from the body. The impetus is not up towards the ceiling, because then you can get into all sorts of like bad habits. You'll bend, you'll turn in. It's the same as tendu, just extending it more. When you start thinking of up, you'll also start involving your upper body, and upper body will start bouncing around, especially to the back. And no wonder, because dégagé to the back is actually pretty hard. It's the same feeling as tendu. You want to elongate it. You think about extending as if it reaches farther away. The stretch is what takes it up, not the up, not bringing your leg up to your back and bending your lower back. It's not a bounce, bring it up. It's an extension. Longer, kicking a stone away from you, kicking water away from you, kicking something away from you across the floor, not up to the ceiling, not a hacky sack. So dégagés follow the same rules as tendus. The foot has to release right in front of the body, right in front of the belly button. If you had an imaginary line coming through the center of your body, coming down through the middle of your feet in fifth position, that's where your leg would wind up. You can't cross it, and you can't be out here either. That's why we do this over and over, to get repeatable, precise, exact, consistent positions. To the back, same thing. It goes directly behind the spine, not overcrossed, not out here. It has to go directly behind you. Now, usually I have like a broomstick or a meter stick here to demonstrate, but those are actually at the studio where I teach at because it's such a helpful tool. So I've said this in my other at the bar videos, but I think it's worth repeating at the end of every lesson. Everything you do at the bar is preparing you for how you will dance in the center. When you're a young kid, or you're very energetic, or you're just very overeager to get to dancing and turning and leaping, one of the biggest complaints is the bar is so boring. And yes, it is if you haven't really gotten to that I guess age level or just discipline level of understanding that everything that you're doing at the bar is the stuff you do in the center. Once you get to a specific level where you actually want to improve and want to be good and technically precise in the center, you should love the bar. I think there's some kind of plateau or some kind of bell curve that happens where it's you get to a point where it's just you love the bar. You don't even want to go in the center because you feel like you're getting the most efficient practice out of the bar. I mean, yes, you should practice in the center too, because if your goal is to perform, you can't perform with the bar on stage with you. But once you get to that level, once you make that connection that oh, all the stuff I do in the center, I was preparing for at the bar, so you see it in these tendus and these dégagés. This is preparing you for jumps now. Today was preparing you for jumps, whether you realized it or not. So I hope you found this useful. I have one more day of the studio being empty, so I'm going to try to take a virtual ballet class, which I have not done since May. So I'll take a class and see how I feel. If I'm still feeling good, maybe I'll try to make another tutorial. The next one would be rond de jambes. My favorite. Is rond de jambe my favorite? It's a toss-up between rond de jambe and fondue. Those might be my favorite things at the bar. Rond de jambe and or fondue. I hate frappes. I dread the day that I get up to frappes and I have to come up with a good frappe combination. Ugh, yuck. Okay, thanks so much for watching and stay salty.